Hello, everyone. It is N Squared Sports, and we're going to be talking about the NFC West division reactions post draft, sort of post off season, right before, during the summer type of reactions. Um, so we've done every other division. This is our last division that we're doing. The NFC West, that's an interesting division. They had, I think, the record wise, they had the best division last year, and I think they're top three division this year. Um, they had the Super Bowl second place team, the Niners.
Runner up, yeah.
There. But I'm going to talk about the Seahawks first because I want to throw a little bit of hot take. And I think the Seahawks get significantly worse. Um, and I know that's big. But man, I don't. We just saw in the news that one of their corners that they traded for, Quentin
Yeah.
Dinbar, his career's done. And he was a pretty good corner last year, so they lose that. And their corners last year were iffy, and their safeties were iffy. They don't have Clowney anymore, and I don't believe they'll sign him. I'm pretty confident on that. I place money on that he won't sign there. That's a big loss. I mean, we
Yeah, and
talked
by the
about it,
way, we made a video about Clowney just to let y'all know, so y'all can go look at that.
and I did explain in there just a brief summary in there. Like I did explain that he'll win you games. He'll win you a game or two a year. But anywho, I like their offense. I love Russell Wilson, but their offensive line got worse. They lost one of their most reliable guards in offensive lineman. Period. Dwayne Brown's just getting older. Um, we already see that their running backs. I like Chris Carson, but he has a fumbling problem. Their other guys are just not reliable. I like DK Metcalf, and I like Tyler Lockett. I love him, but DK Metcalf didn't get injured last year, and he usually gets injured. I think that's definitely more of like me reaching for an argument there, but um, I just don't believe in the depth. I don't believe in anyone besides Russell Wilson. Um, I, I feel like the front seven just got significantly worse. I mean, they drafted a linebacker, and I like him, but I don't think he's going to replace Clowney or replace other productions. Plus, with everyone else in the division, which I'm going to explain, I really don't believe. I think they're the third or fourth team in the division, and I think that's a reasonable argument when you look at the team. Is that they just don't. They're not that impressive on paper. And Russell Wilson's the only thing keeping them afloat. If you put in a quarterback like Stafford, like, I don't know, Kirk Cousins, I don't think you would say the Seahawks are winning division. You're not saying the Seahawks are a 10-win team. Russell Wilson is keeping this team at a 500 level. And they're one of the teams I'm increasingly getting lower and lower on. And I'm going to need a lot or a big signing for them to actually, or a big trade for them to actually yeah. So Nick, after that hot take, let me hear what you guys.
Well, it's interesting you say that about Russell Wilson because just recently people have come out with reports that a couple years ago the Browns or the Seahawks offered Russell Wilson to the Browns for the number one pick, which ended up being Baker Mayfield, which is
Mm-hmm.
crazy. Which it's like, okay, you wanted to trade Russell Wilson for Baker Mayfield. No, they probably wouldn't have taken. Who knows if they would have taken Baker Mayfield or not with that pick? Knowing the Seahawks, they probably wouldn't have. I don't know. They probably wouldn't have though. They're weird with the draft picks. And by the way, their draft this year, I was not impressed with. I don't know what they were really thinking, especially with their first round pick. Their linebacker that they got was definitely not the best on the board. But anyway, yeah, I don't agree with you that they're gonna go down a whole lot because Russell Wilson is still there. I think he'll continue to improve. I think he's probably one of the best, probably top three quarterback in the NFL right now. And yeah, they don't have a ton on defense anymore. They still have Bobby Wagner. They still have, Quinn Dunbar's not going to be there anymore. By the way, just to go real quick, Quinn Dunbar, I know you said he probably is done, but just to give him the story, he was with another player, the Giants cornerback DeAndre Baker. They were at a party and they apparently tried to rob the place and hold people at gunpoint and everything. And so they will be arrested pretty soon, most likely. I just read a report that they have not turned themselves in yet, but they
They have a
probably
warrant
will.
out for their arrest. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so they will eventually turn themselves in, or the police will find them and arrest them. So Quinn Dunbar is done, but I really like their offense with DK Metcalf. I think he is a stud waiting to happen. I think he is really soon going to be a very good receiver in the league. Um, they got Greg Olson, which who
I
knows how
forgot
good
about
he's
that.
actually who actually knows how he's going to be. Like he could be okay, but he also could be not very good. I think he'll be okay. He'll be a serviceable tight end. They still have Tyler Lockett, who is still really good. Chris Carson, yeah, he has a fumbling problem. Definitely need to see it better in that regard. I still think their offense is good enough to, stay around that 500 mark. I don't think they'll win this division this year. I think they will get a tad worse. I'm not saying that they're going to be 13-3 or something, but I don't think they're going to get super, super worse this year. I think it'll take a couple years for them to go down. But I do agree with the point about just they're getting older. Like Bobby Wagner is getting older. Some of their defensive players are getting older. But I don't think it'll happen as fast as what you think it will. I think this year they'll still be around that 8 and 8, 9, 7 range, still competing for the division, even though I think the 49ers will get it. But
No,
that's
I
another
agree with you.
topic.
8 and 8, 9 and 7. That's sort of how I feel. I just don't feel like that's enough to get them
Yeah.
through this division.
Okay. I get it.
So
So I
Niners.
guess I'll go straight into the Niners, who I think will win this division. Jimmy Garoppolo is still there, even though he could be traded after this year. I think he still will be good. I don't think he really needs to be outstanding for this team to go somewhere. Like they got to the Super Bowl last year and he wasn't great. Like in that Super Bowl, he really was not super great. And they still had a chance to win. They were up 10 with 8 minutes left or something in the Super Bowl. So, and he didn't even play that well. So, and that really is because their offense and their defense is amazing, first of all, but their offense is still very good. They lost Emmanuel Sanders. They still have Debo Samuel. Did they draft? I don't think they drafted a receiver. Or I could be wrong, but
I'm looking right now.
okay. But they have Debo Samuel still. They still have some pretty good weapons. George Kittle is amazing. Definitely probably top 2 in the league for tight end. Do you find anything?
Yes, they did. They did draft a wide receiver in the first round, Brandon Ayuk.
Okay, Brandon Ayuk, they drafted he's decent. Again, it'll probably take a year or two to totally develop, but I think he probably can be another Debo Samuel type of guy. So their offense has the personnel, I think, to win this division for sure, but it really all hinges around this defense. And the offensive line, by the way, is also really good. But going to the defense, I mean, what can you say about the defense other than it's outstanding? They lost to Forrest Buckner, which hurts. But what are you gonna say?
I was gonna add this in already. D Ford was injured all last year. He played like 1/3 of snaps, and now he's fully healthy. They already had the rookie of the year or defensive rookie of the year in Nick Bosa. So
yeah, so you lose to Forrest Buckner, but you get D Ford back. You have Nick Bosa there. I'm blanking on who else they have, but I know their defense was top 2 last year, so I think it'll be a top 2 or 3 defense this year too. So I think they'll definitely win this division.
yeah, I agree with you there, and I think they'll win the division as well. I think the biggest issue I have with them is, and this argument may be seen as a reach, or this argument may be seen as clear, depends on the person. But Super Bowl hangovers, they're a real thing. We saw it with the Rams. We've seen it with other teams. We've seen it with the Panthers with Cam Newton. It's a common thing that happens. Really, the only team that we've seen not have this effect on is the Patriots losing. But other than that, every team has a Super Bowl hangover this decade, pretty much. So I'm a little concerned about that. But other than that, this team's good. Richard Sherman and their corners are a year older. But they drafted a defensive tackle in Javon Kinlaw, and they got their wide receiver. I don't think Emmanuel Sanders was critical to their offense. They traded Goodwin away, I believe, as well, to the Eagles. And
Sure.
I like this team. I really can't complain. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have to be great. They wanted Joe Staley, their Hall of Fame left tackle, retired, but then they traded for Trent Williams.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be perfectly fine. You can argue Trent Williams, when healthy, is just as good, maybe even better, but still can't really complain. This team's great. That's as simple as that.
Really. And then also Fred Warner last year kind of came on and became really good last year. Also at the end, they brought in Jason Verrett from the Chargers to have some depth at corner. So they brought in some guys in free agency that I think will really help. So
yeah, so we can move on to the Rams. I don't know what to think of the Rams, to be honest with you. I don't like the Rams. I like the new uniforms. Just got to say that. I know people don't like them, but I like the new uniforms. And I'm looking at their draft, and I'm not super impressed. I mean, they drafted Cam Akers, woohoo, Florida State. I do actually think he's a perfect fit for their team. I was really happy for him to go there. I think he's a breakout candidate for fantasy drafts. Might want to take him. Just saying, he's going to be good. Anywho, Van Jefferson, good pick. Again, man, this is just – I don't trust Goff. I don't trust this defense, even with Jalen Ramsey. I just don't trust this defense at all. I like Aaron Donald. I mean, it's really hard for me to say, oh, this team is going to be good. I mean, they were 9-7 last year, but no one treats them like a 9-7 team last year. I'm looking at the schedule for next year, and it's pretty tough. It really is tough, and their divisions are really hard. I see this team going 8-8, really, 7-8 or 7-9, something like that. I just have a hard time really saying this team's going to the playoffs or this team is competing. They feel like in this odd mix of tanking, but we're not tanking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that kind of attributes to Jared Goff's contract. It's just so big that they can't pay everybody they want to on this team. So they've had to trade away pieces. You still have a cornerstone in Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. Those are your two kind of cornerstone pieces on defense. But other than that, they just don't have the money to pay a ton of other people. Like, you kind of are limited to who you can pay. Now, their receivers, they lost Brandon Cooks to the Texans, but they still have Cooper Kupp. They still have Robert Woods. Those are two very solid receivers. And then they lost Todd Gurley, which I don't think is as big of a deal as people think, because they have Cam Akers now. But still, even with Cam Akers, I don't know if he will come out this year and just be amazing. So I think running back will still be, a position where they don't need to improve on, but I just don't think it'll be amazing this year.
Yeah.
So Goff can't just hand the ball off every time and be okay. He's going to have to make plays himself, and I just don't think he has the ability to do that to win this division or get close to the playoffs. I just think this will be a third or even fourth team in this division this year. That doesn't mean they're going to be bad. I just think they'll only be able to win 7 games, maybe 8 at max.
On top of that, their offensive line is getting old. Andrew Whitworth, who was one of the best tackles this decade,
he's old.
I mean, he said he thought about retiring after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he's 38 right now.
That's their O-line overall was pretty old, and it's hard for me to be like, this team's going anywhere, really. I think we could be seeing a collapse this year.
Yeah.
So the Cardinals, do you want to get us going?
Yeah, so I'll really quick go over the Cardinals. So this Cardinals team, we last year we really liked them. We thought I remember us saying, we're like, if they could just win like 5 or 6 games, that'd be really good. And I'm looking, what did they end up?
5-10-1.
5-10-1. So about what we said, if they can do that, that'd be really good. So their roster this year, before, of course, so now before they got DeAndre Hopkins, I thought one way. But now that they got DeAndre Hopkins, I think differently. Even just with that one player, I think differently. Because Kyler Murray now has a true number one receiver, one of the best receivers in the league to throw to. And that really helps a quarterback who's trying to find his way in the NFL. And Kyler Murray is very small, so he definitely needs an offensive line around him, which they are trying to build. They got Josh Jones, of course, go Cougs, U of H. Really like him. He'll be I think that was a steal. They got him in the middle to late third round, I believe, when they got him. So that he should have probably gone at the end of the first, but they got him in the third. So that was really solid. But other than that, they have DeAndre Hopkins. They drafted Isaiah Simmons, who probably is one of the best players in the entire draft this year. He is just – now it does depend where they play him because I don't think he necessarily fits in every single position, even though he can play safety, he can play linebacker. So he can play a lot of different places, but it depends how they use him. But if they use him correctly, he's very, very good. They also still have Patrick Peterson, even though he's getting older. Of course, Larry Fitzgerald is still there. They brought in Chandler Jones, or no, they still have Chandler Jones. I don't know why. This picture of Chandler Jones is in a Patriots uniform, so that's why I was confused. But they have Chandler Jones. So their defense is very solid as well. They have, I think, Buda Baker is still there. So they have a pretty solid defense. And Kyler Murray now with DeAndre Hopkins is only going to bring him in the right direction, not to mention Christian Kirk is another receiver who's pretty good. So I think this team is on the right track and probably will be better sooner rather than later.
Yeah, the Cardinals. So I have a very high opinion on the Cardinals, and this is the team that, like, every year I have that team that I'm like, this team has the potential to boom and just come out of nowhere. And this is my team with the Cardinals. I feel like it's a common pick for this, but it is. If the Niners sort of have that hangover, like I talked about, I think the Cardinals could win the division. And I know that's a bold take, but
That's very bold.
Their offense is good. Kyler Murray had the best deep ball last year, even as a rookie. According to scouts, film, statistics, everything will point to Kyler had the best deep ball last year.
Being 5'10", that's insane, by the way.
Yeah. And their offensive line got better. That still sketches me out of it. And I think if they pass too much, I think they're going to neglect the run game a little bit. And that's important, even if it's a air raid system like they use. The point is, I like Kyler a lot. I think DeAndre Hopkins, sort of a Christian Kirk, Larry Fitzgerald, switching roles within the slot, on top of their other wide receivers, which they have pretty good depth. They drafted like 3 or 4 last year.
Yeah.
So I do think they're going to start developing a little bit. And I think building a connection with Kyler. Kenyon Drake was on pace for our running back 1 numbers at the end of last season. Overall, this team is very hard to root against this team, I guess. Their defense did improve. I loved Isaiah Simmons. They've come out and said they're going to use him in a linebacker pass rusher position, which is what he's best in and what he should be used in. Yeah. So I'm happy. I'm content with that. I like this team's direction. I like where they're heading. The schedule's a little tough. I've definitely done a lot of like predictions on them and look at the schedule and I'm like, ooh, this is tough because it feels like they should be like a 10-6 team, I feel like. But when I look at their schedule, I'm like, man, I'm going to have to see it before I can actually say 10-6.
Yeah.
Then again, love their team. And I do think their division is getting significantly worse, as I have pretty much discredited the Seahawks and Rams, in my opinion. I think that could be potentially a 3-1 record against them.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know about them going 10-6. That would be doubling their win total, which is really hard to do in the NFL. That usually only happens for 1 or 2 teams, which it could for this team, or not even 1 or 2 teams all the time. Sometimes it's just 1, or sometimes no team does that. That's really hard to do. But, they could – I don't think they will. I think they'll probably finish around 8-8, which is still very good because that just means they're going in the right direction. But I mean, it's going to be a toss-up. I think the 49ers, I think, will get away with it. But I think for the second place, second seed in this division, and possibly a wild card seed for one of these teams in this division, I think it could go any way that you think.
Yeah, I agree. This is the NFC West. It's going to be, I think, one of the more fascinating stories in the NFL is the Cardinals and the Niners. I think this is just overall, it's a really fascinating division. So make sure you watch out all of our other videos about the different divisions and our reactions about them and our opinions on them. Really great videos. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at nsquaredsports, and make sure to watch all our other videos. See y'all later. Bye.